Okay, welcome back to Business Owners Speak. Today, I'm thrilled to have with us Rebecca Miller with MPLD Consulting. Rebecca, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you. Good morning.
Happy to have you on. We appreciate you taking the time. So if you would, start out by telling us a little bit about you and the business.
Sure. Well, we're happily celebrating our 20th year in business this year. We started out in, I know, 2004. I'm only 29 years old,
Right?
so figure it out.
We're proud of
And
you.
yeah, I came from a background in global procurement and development. I worked for American Express and some other companies, and wanted to start my own business. And fortuitously, an opportunity presented itself. And so in 2004, I started out as a test market to see how things were going. And in 3 months, I had a couple of employees, and word of mouth moved quickly. I never did any advertising, and I worked from the moment I started. I'm very happy to say that it's been a constantly growing and wonderful business. And it's been all about relationships. It's about feeding your clients and making sure that you don't forget the folks along the way that you start with, and creating a wonderful stable and then adding to your stable carefully. So that's what I've done, and it's been essentially it started out being much more local. I was further north. I lived up in Stewart, Port St. Lucie area, Treasure Coast. I started out mainly there, and then within a year or two, I was expanding down into the Palm Beach markets, and then further into South Florida. And now we cover all of the entire state, and we also have projects as far as Las Vegas. So we're all over the country, but mainly I like to work as close to home as possible.
That's amazing. Okay, so 2002 or three, you're working, you've got a job. Was there something, and you mentioned an opportunity, and we don't need all the details, I guess, but I'm
Well,
curious.
it's a good story.
Okay, then let's have at it. Let's hear it.
It's a really good story. So I actually took a sabbatical from American Express. If you're with a company for a long enough period of time, you can do that for personal growth, education, as long as it benefits your job performance. And so my goal was to learn Spanish. And at that time, I was working down in Coral Gables in Miami, and I wasn't very fluent in Spanish. I could order a beer, and that's about it. And so my goal, because we were doing a lot of work in Latin America and Spain and all over the world, actually. And so Spanish was a necessity. So I said, I'm going to go into like a really full program here, and that's what I'm going to do. And then the hurricanes hit. My husband took a job up in Stewart, and the hurricanes hit 2 weeks after we purchased our home. And it was decimation, man. It was the pool enclosure. It was just insanity. So it was a hurricane called Francis, and we're the only people without a generator in the entire coast. So it was brutal. And so I went into my local city and said, I need to, be able to put a new roof on and all these things. And it was absolute chaos. People were upset. They were standing in line for 4 hours. And I saw a process management system that did not work, and from a city perspective. And I said to them, look, I kind of know how to do this. Maybe I could help you guys out and for free. And I work for American Express, and maybe I can come in and help you absorb all of this. So I switched my mission from Spanish to hurricane recovery. And so different municipalities and county seats heard about me, and I kept getting invited. So after a week here, I'd be invited to Port St. Lucie. Then I was invited to Vero Beach in Indian River County, and Indian River County administrator had a visit from a company called Centex Homes, which is a fairly large home builder that is now owned under the Pulte branch, and said, we need an agent up here. We need someone to handle our entitlements and our development. We're putting in 5,000 homes in Indian River County, and we don't know anyone up here. And he said, the only person I recommend is me. so so they called me and they said, well, we want to do all of this. And I said, okay, well, I'm not available for hire, but I'd be happy to talk to you as a consultant. And so I came down and immediately, they're like, you're hired. You're the only person that the county administrator recommends, so you're pretty much hired. So, and I'm like, well, I'm not sure I'm available to be hired. And so I called up the county administrator and said, I'm sorry, what were you thinking? And they want to develop PUDs, and what the heck is a PUD? So, so he called me in, and so I got a really crash course in the development process. And I thought, well, this might be a really great opportunity for me, because clearly there's a need in this world. And I was looking to spend more time at home and start a family. And I'd been traveling for 12 years, and it just was, everything kind of came together. So I gave my notice at Amex, and I started working with Centex and developing about, it was 4,800 homes up in Indian River County. And from there, my business exploded, so, and grew.
So
So
out of
it's a big
chaos,
pivot.
yeah, out of chaos
Yeah,
and tragedy comes opportunity.
it's very strange. I think that the takeaway is, you give something to the world without any expectation, and sometimes you get some really wonderful things back. And so it's a beautiful thing. And so I do a lot of volunteer work, have a lot of my life, and I understand that. So but I never expected something like that to lead me to, a new career path. And now that I work for myself and have so for 20 years, I'm never going to work for another boss again. And it's taught me some beautiful things. So
Sure.
it's been a real journey. Yep,
So
love it.
I'm curious, standing in that municipality, watching everybody in chaos, trying to figure out how to get their homes fixed. Like, which part of your previous career told you that I know how to do this?
It was the way that they were handling all of the information coming in, all of the various parties coming in, and how they were processing it. I just watched what they did behind their desks, and the stacks of old-fashioned files, and the this and the that, and they had nothing. There's no process to take in massive amounts of information at once and distribute it through various departments. And also the processes that they were using didn't allow for homeowners, business owners, whoever were in those lines, to get any information prior to getting to the window after they'd waited for 4 hours. So it was about creating, processes that would get the word out of everything that they needed to have in order to come in and make that long wait, so that when they got to the window, they didn't want to pull a gun and kill all the city staff, which actually happened a couple times. So and people were waiting for 5 hours, and they'd get to the window and nada. And so they're like, where's this? Where's this? So it was about creating checklists. I mean, it was kind of backing up to basic for me. But it's interesting when you have places that have never been hit with, a lot of information requests and needs before, and they're kind of, used to their rhythms. And then you have something like this happen. A hurricane hadn't hit the Treasure Coast in 54 years, and so they just weren't prepped for it.
Okay, so these days, as you've grown and expanded, walk us through what a typical client looks like and what processes or services you typically offer and how that
Sure.
relationship works.
Yeah, so I'm a full scale owner's rep, and what that means is that I'm on the development side, not on construction owners repping. I work with a lot of great people that do that, and I have some people that come under me as a subcontractor to do that, but that is not what I do. I work on essentially from all the way from site selection, best use, due diligence, all the way through repping the project, team building, pulling all the necessary tools together, lobbying, public outreach, and running the teams, running the projects on behalf of the owners. I mean, everything that an owner would have to do typically, I do. So, and then of course the end result of all of that are multiple submittals into cities, counties, states. And the final piece of the puzzle is the permitting part. There's a lot of work that goes in. Typically, these projects are a couple years for us. So we're very, very involved through the, inception to completion, When the building COs, we say bye-bye. And that's when we go to the party and we move on to the next one. So we do get hired to do various aspects of it. So people don't know about us. And so they've already done portions of the work and they say, come in and do, maybe an entitlement submittal or public outreach, or come in and do the permitting, which is the horizontal and vertical permitting for the project. And then the next time we're there from the very beginning, because I think it takes about one or two team calls where I'm in charge. So it just like, it's just like boom, boom,
And
boom.
I'm
And
sure people are like, great, here you go, Rebecca, handle it.
it's like I actually palpably feel the size in the room. And so I get wonderful internal references from all of the folks involved, because they actually know I'm a real team worker as well. So it's not about being a boss and belittling, and it's all about empowerment and bringing the team together and to finalize a goal and do it in the most cost effective and effective way. So I've studied people for a long time. I managed a lot of people in my life, and getting people to work cohesively, particularly in the design world, with a lot of heavy egos
Yeah.
and different personality types. An engineer is very different from an architect. People don't realize that. So, and then you got the money
And throw a
side.
designer in there.
Yeah, it's and then you've got the whole money quotient. It's like now, this is interest, this is costing me money. And so how do you get all of those people to work in the most effective manner? And hopefully through my processes, we do that, and that's the intent and the goal. And consequently, because of that, because I require the entire team to be on an ownership call every week with me. The entire team understands the projects holistically. And so the information doesn't get siloed.
Right.
And so what happens with projects that get in trouble is information gets siloed in a particular quadrant. And you get to a certain point in a project, you wonder, why is the building just stopped? Oh, because somebody didn't do something. Nobody knew they were supposed to do something. And so you get stopped, and when you're a mobilized site, the amount of money that gets lost in those processes, you would be shocked and amazed. So I actually have a lot of fiduciaries, a lot of insurance companies, and a lot of the financial angle that actually also recommends me to be a part of projects, because my projects do tend to do better on the financial a scale as far as projections, costs, and not be populated with change orders and delays. So yeah, so it's a nice kismet world. So yeah, so I have a fantastic group of folks that help me out. It's obviously not just me. I bring people in with really amazing backgrounds, but I do look for very, very strong project management training. And so that's what I have. I have a group of project managers who really know how to handle these projects, can take all of the wheels, because again, it's just about, my projects tend to be, most of my projects are over 10, $15 million. So they're fairly sizable. So there's just so many different components, and no same municipality or county has the same rules. And so and I mean, if you go to, Raleigh Durham, or you go to Vegas, then you're starting from scratch again. So
You don't know the people,
very,
you don't know the players.
yep, and it's who's been able to lobby the county or cities to make it as difficult as possible, so that we need to hire specialists. So there's that. No offense, but so it's a very involved process, and it's very shocking to people that come from places where it's significantly easier to get work like this done, like the Midwest, for instance. So
So are most of your projects large master plan residential communities, or is it more commercial work?
no, we have, I would say the master plan communities, we only have, is a smaller portion of my work now. I do enjoy it, and I have two projects right now where I'm very involved in, on two brand new ones. So I do enjoy that work, but by and large, it's almost all commercial. I have a huge amount of multifamily, condominium, high-rise construction. I work with some of the biggest names in the business. And so there's a lot of cranes all over Palm Beach County and South and North, and I'm involved with a lot of that. And then, but then we also do Publix grocery stores. We do a lot of work with publics. We do hospitals. So I've got 2 hospital projects right now. In surgery centers. So we're going to be doing a surgical center campus, which is really interesting. Student housing. So I'm pretty diversified. I've got a little bit of everything, which I think is a really good thing to do, to be economic downturn proof. Because when the economy changes and the luxury builds go, then the institutional, yep, and the grocery stores and the business as usual, the stuff that you need to buy, even if you don't have any money to build a new home, you
Right.
still have to go to the grocery store.
Gotta eat.
So it's a good thing. So I'm really interested in redevelopment, taking areas that I pride myself on never having cut down a virgin forest anywhere. It's all redevelopment, infill projects that make an area better.
Okay. So quite the journey, and I'm curious because we have a good audience of small business owners who are 10 to 15 to even 20 years behind you in terms of longevity as owners.
Yeah.
And so like your story, it makes a lot of people kind of dream the dream, right? So I'm
Yeah.
curious if you could offer some words of wisdom on just how you're
Yeah.
able to build this.
I think, well, I mean, I think slow growth is a really, really smart thing in the initial phases of a business. Taking on, I think where I see a lot of errors happen, um, is really fast growth and then not being able to deliver on the same level of service that client may have experienced when they were first with you. And so what happens is you aren't as experienced maybe as you need to be, and you start taking a lot of work and you hire a bunch of people, but you don't really know enough to be able to train them that well. And so you're reliant on, growing together, if you will. And the dilution of expertise happens at that point. And so I don't mean that you shouldn't grow. I think growing is fantastic. And I think that people have to understand how you make money too. So it's not necessarily how many people are working in your office. It's how much you're able to charge for your services, and based upon the quality of your work. And so I think building in that level of expertise and patience is incredibly important. And then constantly moving with the market. If you fix yourself, if you get fixated and you're gonna just focus on this one thing, and you're not flexible enough to move with your market, whatever that market is, that's stagnation, and that's going to be something that holds you back. So as this world changes, I started out doing residential. I added new ways of doing business. I added new services. I said yes even when I didn't know how to do something. I think that's the critical path. If you have faith in yourself, and you can learn something, and you can also ask for help along the way, educate yourself, and ask people who've done things that you admire and how they've done them. Take on one word of wisdom that I would give to small businesses is hire financial people earlier in the game than I did. So if you're not a financial whiz, by that I mean accountants, bookkeepers, that kind of stuff. That is where it's never a bad thing to put your money.
Yeah.
So keeping your books in order at a very early stage. Don't have your husband or wife do your books. Hire somebody who knows what they're doing. And I did it. I did my own for, way too long. And after I hired people, I made so much more money. I was
Right.
paying too much of taxes. I wasn't aware of so many of the things the incentives that I could take a part of, and reaching out in that way is very important.
Well, Rebecca, we really enjoyed the chat today. Thanks for sharing your journey, and very impressive, and kind of a good map for other small business owners to follow. So Rebecca Miller with MPLD Consultants, thank you so much for your time and
Very welcome.
sharing your story.
It was my pleasure. Thanks very much.